Good afternoon. I'm Ragini Ranchana, Assistant Professor at National Institute of Fashion Technology, India, and a research scholar at Indian Institute of Technology, Hyderabad, India. I'm going to present on the evolving cultural forms, the shift in the paradigm of oral pictorial tradition and folk art of India. The co-presenter for this paper is Mohammad Shahid, who is Assistant Professor at Indian Institute of Technology, Hyderabad, India. Beliefs engages the community to perform practices. Repetition of practices within society leads to formation of rituals. Rituals, followed for generation, form traditions. Traditions define culture. This paper is a case study conducted to understand the propagation of oral pictorial tradition and folk art from India, from its primitive form to the shifting paradigm. Before going to the cultural form, I would first like to discuss cultural heritage. Cultural heritage can include tangible cultural heritage, intangible cultural heritage, natural heritage, and cultural landscapes. Tangible cultural heritage includes material creation like artifacts, monuments. Intangible cultural heritage includes oral tradition, performing arts, cultural practices, rituals, festival, and many more. UNESCO, the oldest and the most active organization for conserving and preserving cultural heritage, started in 1972. In 2002, UNESCO provide key strategy which is known as 4 C's, stands for credibility, conservation, capacity building, and communication. In 2003, UNESCO included ICH into the convention. In 2007, fifth C is included in the 4C policy, where the community is added. Last year, in 2022, UNESCO celebrated 50th year of convention. This year, 2023, the next 50 year is going to be planned by UNESCO. Cultural forms. Cultural forms are the material forms generated with effects of the value, beliefs, and knowing of community or a society. These cultural forms have varied depictions. Some could be seen as an object, artifacts, and a daily practice collaterals. Few could be the scrolls, paintings, murals. In oral pictorial tradition, as the name suggests, oral means verbal, pictorial means visual, and tradition means the practices which is practiced from generation to generation. We are going to talk about the verbal and visual coexistence narrated in the form of stories and correlated visual depictions. These are the various art forms or cultural forms which are also the oral pictorial tradition of India. For this paper, I will be taking samples from three main oral pictorial tradition of India: Patwa, Kawad, and Madhubani painting. Patwa is a vertical scroll painting from West Bengal, India. Kawad is a wooden shrine from western part of India, Rajasthan. Madhubani painting is a mural practiced at eastern part of India. All the three art forms are globally celebrated art forms, well known and have seen the revival of craft through decades. The timeline is divided into four milestones. First milestones talk about the time period before 1960. Second milestones talk about the time period from 1960 to 1980s. Third milestones talks about 1980 to 2000. The fourth milestone talks about the time period of 2000 to 2018. In the very first milestones, before 1960, as we can see in the picture, talks about the synergies within the community. There are three set of people: artists, storyteller, and patrons. Artists develop the cultural forms, which the storyteller took it to the patrons and narrate the story. Patrons provide the livelihood or sustaining collaterals to the storyteller and also ask for the certain changes or the panels in the in the existing forms. Storyteller took those information and deliver it to the maker. Maker redraw the panels and provide it to the storyteller. Storyteller ag- again took this to the patrons. This cycle goes on and on. This is being very firmly indicated by the Nina Sabnani in Kavar tradition of Rajasthan. This is the picture from the book where the person holding the cover is talking about the stories of the patrons. Patrons carefully listening to them. This is a picture of Madhubani painting where the woman is depicting the symbols, deities as the blessing to the daughter at her wedding. The second milestone, shift in the practices, talks about the impact of industrialization and globalization on India. In 1960, in between the 1960s to 1980s, India opened the economy for globalization. As, as a impact or resultant of it, many of the people start recognizing these cultural existence of India. The new patrons, who are the art enthusiasts and curators, come to know about these and started involving these on a global platforms. Indian art forms get recognized by the globe. It is mentioned by the Pita Ghosh in 2013 about one of his experience in 1964 where Patwa art is included in one of the museum display. It was celebrated and displayed, got the exposure at the international platform. This is one of the Oberghar painted at National Craft Museum, India. Shift in the practices also brought material to these artists. Earlier, Madhubani painting used to be a mural drawn on the mud walls. The introduction of paper to these artists has helped them to draw on these paper and also help to use it for their sustenance and the livelihood, bringing a new scope and way of life. In the third milestone, 1980s to 2000, there is a growth of new patrons. Beside the art enthusiasts and the curators, there are tourists and many other people who start taking interest in these art forms. As described by Nina Sabnani in her journey, she met three Suthar. Suthar are the carpenters or the maker of these cultural forms. The first Suthar, Ghansham Suthar, used to draw and make cover for the community, whereas the second Suthar, Satya Narayan Suthar, used to form it for the tourist. And the third Suthar, which is Mangilal Mistri, encouraged by the government to depict various policies through his artwork, through his cultural forms, which is covered. This is one of the example from Mangal Lal Mistri work where he has depicted the girl child and education through cover. This is the second example, the work by Ganga Devi, who used to draw and also got the Padma Shri, the most prestigious award for her paintings in Madhubani paintings. In 1986, after experiencing the art exhibition in America, this is the first time an artist is drawing something which is not part of the community or the cultural belief. Earlier, The story was taken from mythological or cultural database. The fourth milestone talks about 2000 to 2018, the expanded market and involvement of the new patrons and the trained creator. If we can see, our new patrons were growing. Now, the local people as well as the global audiences get included. All these cultural forms inspired a lot of designer, practitioner to develop products, lot of policymaker and collaborator to come up with the new policies and ways to work and reach people. There are many artists or maker who get trained to develop and work for these artworks. Both the patrons and the artist grows. This is the example of using covered with the new material and new way in the paper for the children education. The second image is of a screenshot from an animated movie Baat Wahi Hai on cover. These examples are of Sita Ramayan, a graphic novel by Tara Publication. Big School is a book by Eklavya Publication. The next painting is the painting of Joy of Living by Puspa Kumari, funded by Public Art Fund for Global Positioning in 2021. As we can see, there is a recognition, there is a lot of new people knowing and appreciating the craft. There are new artists who develop the art forms and also learn it. There are many peoples now involved and know about these culture forms and existence of the cultural heritage. We can also see how the culture forms attractiveness get transformed and refashioned for broader cosmopolitan audience. But at the same time, we can also see there is a set of community people which doesn't get included in the synergies. The initial primitive synergies, which used to transform, provide the information from generation to generation, were not included. Are these changes good or bad? Undoubtedly, much is hidden. But if these changes might not have been, I would not have come with this conclusion and this paper. It also talks about how both the cultural forms or cultural heritage, tangible and intangible, could coexist. Is there a way for both the values and the forms to coexist? This also leave me with one of the question: is similar practices are there in the other side of the globes? These are the image references taken for the presentation and the references taken from the journals and websites. Dhanyavad. Thank you.